Oh, it's been a while since Casey Stern has joined Locked On Warriors. I'm so ecstatic he's joining me. It's a live show Wednesday night. And for a game where the Warriors lost, what did they lose by? 30, 40, 50, whatever it was?
They lost by 30 officially, I believe. It was 143
Okay.
to 113 was the final.
There you go. But for a game of that massive amount of discrepancy, I'm encouraged. I'm curious to see you, Casey Stern, with the national perspective, what your thoughts are on this Warriors team. We saw no Kyrie, but hey, look, there's still plenty
No
of
Steph,
critique.
no Clay.
It's all coming up next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Casey Stern, the host of Unfiltered, a former host of Inside the NBA, a show I still watch practically religiously, on Twitter, on social media at Casey Stern. And you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dog Surf Roadshow. Casey, it's been way too long since we've had you on the program. And by the way, it's a live show. We're streaming. The Warriors lost that game by 30
What, are you
points.
saying that to try to make me nervous, or to just make sure I don't drop my F-bombs because I did that on national TV?
You're not going to get nervous, dude.
So,
you're a pro's pro. I'm not worried about that.
I'm here to be discovered by someone. Maybe it's somebody in the chat. If it's you, let me know.
You got to be discovered again. Yeah, you got to be discovered again.
Of course, yes.
It's happened once. Let's go for round two.
Yes, it's the Mickey Rourke arc. But go ahead. Yes.
You're much more handsome than Mickey Rourke. I want to give you credit there. And he's a handsome son of a bitch himself. What was your first reaction to this game, man? The Warriors lost by 30. Your thoughts?
I took one note. I told you before, and I wasn't going to show you until we were on the air. I took one note. I don't know if you're not going to go, oh, yeah, you could see it. Screen. That's the note. 46-17, WTF. That's what I wrote. That was the first quarter.
Yes.
46-17. Now, here's how things have changed. You said, they lost by 30, and in a game like this, I'm encouraged. You won a championship last year, right? Do I have to remind you? This is how things have changed, right? So that's the dynamic. Now, being fair, and my math, it's not a TI-82 calculator, down 29 points at the end of the first. So for the final three quarters, you played pretty even. And that's great. But minutes are changed on both sides, right? And then we're going to talk about Wiseman. Situations are changed and altered. And that kind of, I think, it muddies the water in terms of looking at what we really saw for the rest of the game.
Right.
When everybody came out to start and said, we're tied at 0, you were down 46-17, and you're the Golden State Warriors, and that's not okay. It's Hanukkah. That's not kosher. That's where
I do like that. I like what you said there, though. The Warriors lost the first quarter by what, 29 points? Is my math
29
right?
points, 46-17. Yes.
So 29, and then they lost again by 30. So that means if you take the first quarter out, they got outscored by 1 point. That's not bad. You're right. Things have changed, Casey, since the last time you've been on the show. Because the last time you came on, you're right. The Warriors,
and that's why they've changed, by the way. But go ahead.
Because you stopped going on. They still are the defending world champions, but and this right here is to me what has killed me since I've last seen you. A comment like this from Lamb, who writes, or from Kings, I'm sorry, who writes, I want to see Lamb stop playing. So do I. The Warriors, for some reason, Casey, since you've last been on the show, have decided that their two-way players deserve more minutes than their 3 prize lottery picks. That has driven me insane. And then tonight, James Wiseman, we're going to give him his accolades in just a minute because he had a great game. Patrick Baldwin Jr., the rookie, had a pretty solid outing tonight.
Career. That's right.
So, in your opinion, as a neutral observer, the New York Knicks are technically your team. Last night's game,
they blew a close one tonight, but that's all right. Yeah,
they what?
They were going for the 9th straight win. They came back and took a lead in the 4th quarter against the Raptors, but they lost. Not that you're interested, but go ahead.
I'm a little interested.
Yeah,
so the streak's over. Wow,
yeah,
that's great. maybe the Warriors are responsible for that because the Knicks gave it their all last night, and they had nothing left to give.
And they did. And they look. Here's the thing: this team right now is hard to judge because, especially tonight, look, Steph's not on the floor. And say what you want about who's in and what's in the rotation. When Steph Curry's not there, the problems are what this team looked like before he went out.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt. The problems aren't now. Now it's a team without Steph Curry, Klay Thompson in a back-to-back where he can't play. You can't really judge anything except how minutes are given to guys who now deserve opportunity, and then what to gauge and judge from what those opportunities mean, for example, a Wiseman or a Baldwin tonight. Other than that, you're trying to hang around with bandages and somehow stick it out until Steph Curry gets back and be at least within striking distance to have a great fourth quarter, if you will, and find a way to get into the playoffs. That's the goal now. Bandage it up and damage control, but not good when you're down 29 after the first quarter. And by the way, that's a Nets franchise record. That's the most points they've ever scored in the history of their franchise in a first quarter. 46 they got on you tonight.
And they did it on the Warriors. That's awesome. But again, last night, first of all, your Knicks do look good. There was nothing. Like when Kylan and I hosted the show last night, we had nothing positive to discuss. There was no silver lining. There were no bright sides, nothing. Tonight, the James Wiseman thing was solid. Patrick Baldwin Jr. was solid. Kuminga will get it together in time. I have faith in him. I want to play this soundbite, though. I want to start with this because a Golden State Warriors general manager, Bob Myers, was on our local radio station today, 95.7 The Game. And he's been relatively quiet lately. So for him to come out and actually talk was a bit fascinating. It was actually nice to hear his thoughts. And you, Casey, I would love your opinion on what Myers had to say. So there are two clips. The first one talks about the fact that Bob Myers has a contract that expires after this season, which is kind of weird. So let's hear what Myers had to say about that.
But I'm really just focused on the season. I'm not worried about it. I'm focused on our season, and that's my main focus. And I'm not worried about me right now. We could talk about last night, which is probably, I'm glad we've avoided it, and we've talked for 10 minutes or so. I got to figure out some things more than me with our team and focus on. I thought you were going to say you thought we were turning the corner in Boston, and I thought we're not in Boston. We played Boston.
Nope,
and I kind of would agree with that. And, obviously Curry going down, but we got to find some kind of rhythm. And that's my job. And was at dinner last night with Steve after the game. And, we got to find a path here where we get some consistency, and it's hard to do when you're injured, but every team has injuries. And to be fair and self-critical, we were struggling when we were healthy. So that's my focus. And tonight we got a lot of guys out too.
Man.
So yeah, Goo, I appreciate the support. I do. I
know you're my guy, man.
I know you want the Warriors to do well. Like I said, I should be focused on us, and I know the Giants thing's a big deal, but we gotta try to get this ship right with our team. And as a GM, you can look at your team through rose-colored glasses, or sometimes you're too critical. We got to figure out what we are. That boss you brought up that night, I thought I had a sense of it, and then you struggle, and then you have to be patient, but you also have to be impatient. So I'm rambling, but I need to focus. But I'm really.
All right, so we'll stop it right there. What I heard from that was Bob Myers at least has self-awareness. He's fully, I love that he brought up the Celtics game from 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you were following the Warriors of the NBA enough, Casey, for that Saturday night marquee matchup where the Warriors beat the Celtics at home. Things look good after that. But then Steph got injured shortly after. The Warriors have the worst road record in the NBA. Is there anything you heard from that clip that sticks out to you?
Fear.
Shoot. Oh, dear.
Yeah,
oh,
fear.
Dear. Oh,
I
dear.
mean, the first thing that I heard right there was if you do that in a job interview, you don't get the job. It sounded like, look, I like Bob Myers, but we know how he sounded before. He sounded to me less sure of himself and the team and everything that is going on in the organization at that point than I've ever heard him. Ever. Even in the
Oof.
season where they had the injuries after Clay went down and they had lost KD and he moved away and they were the worst team in the league, they were assured of at least understanding what the direction was and where they were. I heard fear. Fear of, I don't know how we're going to get better. Fear of, I don't really know. Look, he's sitting there saying, shh, I appreciate the support. I mean, what is this, BetterHelp? What do you mean you appreciate the support? I mean, no, I'm just saying. It's like, come on, man. Dude, that's not instilling much confidence in, I think, the direction of the team right now or the understanding of the roster being good enough right now. Because you get about all these trades and anything else that everybody wants to do. But at the end of the day, this is about one point he made that I thought was accurate. This is about where we were playing and how we were playing before Steph went down.
Yes.
It's not about now. The problem is you can't now go back to that and try and build off a Celtics win or figure out why Road Warriors doesn't. It's got to take that out of the dictionary. You can't Google that right now. It doesn't even look like it should be together in a sentence. But I thought, like, to me, when you hear the guy say, I appreciate the support, he sounds like he's looking for sympathy, and they don't have answers right now.
No.
I'll quote one of the guys in the chat. Bob sounded cooked in that. To me.
Oh my God. Yeah, no cap right there. He's a regular who comes on this show. Oh my God. Well, I love the perspective you're bringing because almost everyone who I'm interviewing, myself, we're so entrenched in this Warriors world that it's nice to get this fresh breath of air from you. We'll talk about this. We'll delve into this a lot more. Got to give some love to a sponsor first. The National Highway Transportation Safety Agency has a PSA for you. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right, folks. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high could get you a DUI. And if you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're apparently wrong. Your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell, even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine to drive when you're high, you're not. Because the bottom line is, if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by the National Highway Transportation Safety Agency.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports today. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Casey Stern on Twitter, the host of Unfiltered, at Casey Stern. Before we go back, actually, I'll save it for the end because I do have to get your take. You cover baseball a lot more than the NBA right now. And you're a Mets fan, is that right? Okay, so that Carlos Correa thing, we have to touch on that because even
Merry
Bob
Correa-mas. Merry Correa-mas. Yes.
Bob Myers was even touching on that. Let's talk about some positives from this game, though. James Wiseman had the best game of his career by far. In 28 minutes of play, he had 30 points, 6 rebounds. Would like to see more of that, but on a night like this, we're not going to complain. 5 for 8 from the line, even hit a 3-pointer, shot 12 of 14 from the field. This has been a huge point of contentiousness, Casey, within Dub Nation and the Bay Area and anyone else who follows the Warriors, whether or not they should be playing this kid. I'm of the thinking that Kerr I don't think he understands how to coach players this young because he has such a short confidence-killing leash. The moment these kids are out there making mistakes, he's like, yank, you're out of here. So Wiseman's barely played this season. He's played much more on the G League level for the Santa Cruz Warriors. Last night, he was awful, all right? But then tonight, you keep giving this kid a chance. You give him minutes. He produces with 30 points on 12-14 shooting. Great night. What are your thoughts on James Wiseman, man? Like, do you like the fact that Kerr has this short leash and has no patience for him? Do you think that they should be going with the learn as you do methodology? What are your thoughts on James Wiseman, man, and how the Warriors are handling this?
I'll give you an analogy. You mentioned baseball. So I used to say all the time in baseball, for folks who are baseball fans or not, it'll still make sense, that managers who were on, and I'm not saying Kerr's on a short leash, but follow me, managers who are on short leashes, they would play a 40-year-old who was on his last leg over the young prospect and give him a chance because they have to win. If I don't win, right, then my boss isn't going to keep me here. Right? I'm on an expiring contract, or we're under pressure to win now. I can't take chances. And that's always a mistake. And it's always when the organization, the coach is not in line. Here's why I bring it up. The Warriors coming into this season are trying to win a championship again. Every Warriors fan, and I know you and many others, thought, hey, this may be the best team in basketball again. Right? Going in, that's what you felt. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Sigh. Pun intended. I still, by the way, can I go back to the way you said marijuana? Anyway, I go back. I'm sorry. I don't want to go off the rails like the first quarter.
You're good.
It's late at night here in the East Coast, and I was up with kids all day. But look, back to the point.
Okay.
If Steve Kerr's got a team trying to win a championship, it is harder than play kids like a Wiseman watch mistakes. It's why that leash is shorter, because we don't have the time to groom you right now, kid. We're trying to go win the whole damn show. When you are with no Steph Curry, right? You're in a night like tonight with a back-to-back with no Clay. You're against the Brooklyn Nets on the road where you can't win games, and you are struggling mightily. You have to give those chances, and I think it's the right thing to do. But to your point, now you have to follow it up. If Wiseman has a game like this, and the Warriors then in their next game play Wiseman 14 minutes or 12 minutes, or he's out there on the floor in the second quarter and 1 5-minute stint misses 3 shots, and we don't see him again until garbage time, well, then you just took everything that you built and that kid earned tonight with his own confidence, and you threw it out the window.
Yes.
This is the time where you have to give those kids chances. And I will say there are going to be fans who are going to be upset if they do that, because you're still trying to win every game, stay in it, stay in playoff contention, make trades, wait till Steph goes back and all of that. But you have to take advantage of this time period and the opportunity to play these kids. And now, after a night like that, Wiseman should play another 25, 30 minutes in the next game, not 12.
That's you. That was very eloquently put. No disagreement.
Thank you. And in the middle of it, I said marijuana. So
I didn't get marijuana. No, you absolutely did. So I want to play this soundbite. There was 2 I was going to play from Myers tonight. Here's the second one. And this one, he talks about, he was asked about whether or not the Warriors are going to and should make a trade. So here's Bob Myers on the possibility of the Warriors pulling a trade.
It's not that I don't want to answer it today, but I've learned in this business that the answer to that question evolves throughout the season. So as much time as we can take to evaluate that and get it right, because once you make a deal, it's done and you can't go back. So with the Russell stuff, when we moved him for Wiggins, that was a thought for a long time until it came to fruition the day of the deadline. But first, the question that you asked needs to be answered in the form of yes or no. And then if the answer is a change needs to be made, what's the change? I think that we, at some point soon, in the next however many few weeks, have to decide what is the answer to that question, and then what specifically is the answer to it. So I think right now we've seen we can play with a lot of the really good teams, but we've also lost to some teams we would think we could beat, and our record's our record. And that's not something we expected it would be at this point in time. So that's what we have to decide. And the ways to get better are internally or externally. That's pretty simple this time of year. There's trades, or there's your team plays better. We have guys that can play better, I believe that. And we haven't seen the best version of us. But that could be me just being too optimistic. We have to see it at some point. We're what? How many games in 30? What are we? 32, I think, something like that. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm supposed to be focused on that and not anything else. So that'll be my time will be spent on answering that.
All right. When we come back, Casey, I would love to get your reaction to that.
Please do.
If it comes anywhere close to your reaction to the first sound clip, my
Please
Lord,
do.
You have delivered and then some. This show tonight is sponsored, or brought to you, either or, by BetterHelp. And Casey, I think you and I are both on the same page in terms of mental health and the fact that there should never be a stigma attached to that. This world is hard, man. It's crazy. Life is difficult. It's okay to seek help, and BetterHelp is one resource for you. Unfortunately, look, life doesn't come with a user manual. So if it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. You might be in a bad relationship. You might be depressed. You might be dealing with anxiety. Whatever those issues are, it's perfectly okay and normal and healthy to seek help with mental issues. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists who are available 100% online. It's also affordable. All you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It could not be simpler. There's no waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere. Casey, that clip was interesting from Bob Myers. He sort of gave a non-answer, was stating some obvious things. Your reaction to Myers talking about the team maybe making a trade?
Ask me any, like, the most mundane question. Ask me anything. Just ask me a question.
Okay. How are your kids doing?
You know, Cyrus, I could tell you about my kids, and I've got 3 of them, and there are 2 girls, and I had a boy before that. So I could tell you about them all, but I should tell you about them individually. But really, I need to concentrate and keep my mind on telling you about them all, because we are a team. And, you know, even though in this house we could make some upgrades and there are probably things we could do, you know, to be honest with you, you see where I'm going with that? I mean, honestly, that's what just happened. Like, what in the hell was that? Like, what was that? And I don't know who did the interview, but my response, like, my follow-up question would have been like, can you translate that into something that tells me anything? Like, I didn't learn anything from that. Come on, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. You're right. Well, so I'll say this.
I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be saying. Look, I've never heard, but like, it is like watching. So as a Knicks fan, NBA reference is Jeff Van Gundy, who I love. We used to watch Jeff Van Gundy for years, and you would watch the black under his eyes from how tired he was, and the bags, they would grow and grow. Like, if you remember, it looked like he hadn't slept. Like the wear and tear of Dolan and being a Knicks, like, it's like that is what it sounds like. Just happened to Bob Myers. Like, they didn't ask you a difficult question. Well, you know, honestly, I know you're really looking for like a yes or no answer on do I make a trade, but we got Wiggins once, and what in the hell was that?
Oh my God! No, that was.
I'm sorry. It's late at night. I'm just giving it to you real. It's like a Seinfeld reference. You want to be my latex salesman? Like, what in the hell was that?
I will say this on tomorrow's show. Kylan Mills is going to join me. Last show of the week before Christmas, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating to you and your family, Casey. And same goes for everyone else out there. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to do some research and literally present every name out there that the Warriors maybe could, within the realms of reality, trade for. We might as well delve into this, see who's out there. So I'm saving that for tomorrow. Stay tuned. I want to play one more soundbite, and we're done with.
You might want to tell Bob. You might want to tell Bob who the names are that you discussed.
I will. Look, this is not a Bob Myers clip. This is actually Steve Kerr. I'm done with.
Go ahead.
I'm tapped out with Bob Myers,
and that's my honest reaction. It's like, wow. I mean, it's just that's not what you want. That's not what you want. Go ahead.
No, you're right. You're absolutely
Oh,
right.
my
By
goodness.
the way, folks, Casey and I, some point early next year, we're going to be hosting a daily NBA show called
Yes.
NBA Coast to Coast. You're coming back on to promote that big time once we settle the date, but
Yes.
just want to throw that out there now. Here is Steve Kerr talking about James Wiseman's 30-point performance. I'm curious to see what Kerr has to say about this.
What are your thoughts on how James played tonight, and are there any plans to keep him with the big club beyond this road trip?
James did a great job tonight. It was fun to see him, kind of let loose and get some minutes and make the most of it. Did a lot of good things offensively. I thought the second half, our young guys were much better than they were last night in New York. So it was good to see them get out there and execute and make some shots. Patrick Baldwin got hot there, and obviously James was really efficient, and Ty Jerome kind of connected everybody during that second half run. So, that was encouraging, but you lose by 30. That's it's small consolation.
It's like he hates James Wiseman. I do not feel any love from Steve Kerr for James Wiseman, and the fact that he praised Ty Jerome in that attribution more than James Wiseman.
You hate Ty Jerome. So I
don't hate Ty Jerome. I hate Steve Kerr for the amount of love he has for Ty Jerome, because Ty Jerome is the most average basketball player on the planet. I'm perfectly okay with him at the end of the bench, cheering the team on, playing garbage time. But the moment he's stealing minutes from a player like Mosey Moody, who needs to give love tonight, he had a great game. 31 minutes, 17 points, 7 of 11 from the field, 3 for 5 from beyond the arc, had some hustle plays out there defensively. That's what bothers me, is when Kerr keeps giving these two-way guys minutes over individuals that need reps to develop and grow. So I don't hate Ty Jerome. I don't know him.
It sounds like you're a little bit. Well, you don't like the way he's used and that he's overused, yes. Right? But Absolutely. Here's the thing. Here's the Wiseman part, and this is not a non. I'm not going to give you a non-answer in certainly the way Bob did before, but being fair. A lot of times coaches, especially coaches who've been around a long time, and guys who played with the likes of the Jordans that Kerr did and saw the way young players are handled, they get this thing where young players really have to pay dues. They have to earn it not only with time, but they earn it in terms of, it's like, it's a parenting nature that some people have versus others, where they say, like, don't praise your child, right? You're not supposed to, and everything they did was great. There are some people who feel like, hey, you got to give more tough love. I had Leo Mazzoni, the longtime pitching coach of the Braves, told me years ago, coaching's about knowing where to blow smoke and where to light fire. A lot of times younger players need you to not blow smoke but light fire. That may be something that we're seeing with Wiseman. I don't know if necessarily it's personal. I don't think I'm going to read in the chat, well, he doesn't like him. But when he performs and he does what he did, now you'll see what Kerr thought of it based on the amount of minutes he plays in the next game. If Kerr goes out there and lets them play 12 minutes in the next game, then he thought, hey, in garbage time, Wiseman was great. Didn't mean anything to me. But if Wiseman goes out and now his minutes consistently are over 20, he's giving you opportunities, and not in just in blowout games, but in a fourth quarter, even if it's early in a fourth quarter where you're in a game, then I think you'll start to learn what Kerr feels about him. But a lot of times these coaches give tough love to young players. That's something that happens across the league.
No, you're absolutely right. And I guess I'm just curious if that's the right approach, because you have 3 young players who, until they reached the NBA, got the diva treatment, right? I mean, Jonathan Kuminga for the G League, high school, Mosey Moody, I mean, since he was like a teenager, was an AAU product, I believe, in Florida. James Wiseman was a stud in high school, same with college. And some of these guys, when they come to the NBA, you can't just suddenly go, okay, sit on the bench, I might play you 5 minutes, and if you play like crap, I'm going to pull you immediately. That is just too much of a system shock to their system individually. I just don't think it's not working. I don't think it's working.
Well, the hard part, though, is, but Cyrus, here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Isn't it harder on a team that's trying to win? Young players get a lot of minutes when they're drafted high on crappy teams because those teams are bad. And that doesn't work either. Josh Jackson was the number 3 pick overall for the Suns. I think he was a hell of a player in college, could have been a way better player in the NBA, but that thing was a joke. I mean, it's a PG family show, but it's a bleep show in Phoenix, clearly. And, Devin Booker's the only one who even survived. There are a lot of young players that just went off the reservation. When you are trying to win now, it's harder for coaches to get, because, hey, look, sometimes all you got is that snippet of time. And if you don't show me that you belong, well, you're back on the bench in garbage time until the next time that you do. I'm just playing devil's advocate, if you will.
Play it.
That with a
makes for good
team that it
content.
has to win, with a team that is supposed to win, it is harder to give a longer leash to young players.
And the only reason why it's a point of contention, and I love this tweet from AJ Simpson, who writes, Ty Jerome looks like the guy playing at 24-hour fitness last week. Exactly. There's just nothing special about him. And when you're trying to win a world championship, my beef is this. Bob Myers basically gave Steve Kerr this roster that has the same starting five they had last year, that won a title for him. You have Jordan Poole as your sixth man, but then wiped the slate clean with everyone else, right? Just got rid of everyone else and replaced them with Dante DiVincenzo, who I think everyone agrees is fantastic. He needs to get a contract extension immediately, because if not, he's gone after this year, and that's not a cool thing. JaMychal Green has been a bit of a disappointment. You see flashes where he lives up to what's expected and what's needed from him. But then once you drop off JaMychal Green, all you have are basically rookies and these two-way players. And my thing is, that's your choice. It's an either or. Either you play these two-way guys who, again, in my opinion, have no business playing for a team that's trying to repeat as a world champion, or you start playing these young kids and hope and pray they develop by the end of the season so they can contribute for you in the postseason. What Kerr is doing is giving the two-way guys all the minutes. He's not playing the youngsters at all. So he's basically eliminating any possibility of these youngsters developing in time, and you're left with bupkis. Like, this is a disaster. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on what I just said there?
Well, look, first of all, he may think they're going to fail and may think that it's better that a two-way guy gets in that spot and fails than somebody whose career they're more trying to nurse and be careful with because they're a higher touted pick or they think they need room to grow. Again, just playing the other side of it. But think about this. Rotations in the NBA are a big thing, okay? You mentioned the Knicks before. Just use them as an example, right? The Knicks are a team that Derrick Rose's not even playing. I mean, he's getting DMPs every day, right? Not playing. They're playing 8 guys. And since Tibbs went to playing 8, sometimes if you count 4 or 5 minutes, a 9th guy, almost like a playoff series, they've won like 10 out of their 11 games since they've been doing that. Because the guys who are in the starting 5 are getting more minutes. Guys are getting more of a feel of the game, right? They're getting in rhythm, and it's helped the team. When Dwayne Casey was coach of the year with the Raptors and they won 50 games, for those who remember, and I was working at NBA at Turner and on NBA TV at the time.
Yes, sir.
When they got into the playoffs with their rotation, he's trying to play 12, 13 guys. It didn't work. DeRozan and company went home to LeBron. The next year, Casey's gone, right? Nick Nurse comes in. Where'd they go?
Yeah.
Shortened rotation. Your team was looking to play a shortened rotation. You're a championship team. Outside of Clay on back-to-backs, you're not playing a lot of guys, right? So, okay, you had Peyton last year. Now you don't. You got DiVincenzo in. Maybe that's a replacement. But we're going to play our playoff rotation guys, and we're going to go win because we're trying to win the whole damn show. Right. But when Clay's not Clay and the other players aren't doing what you're supposed to do, and then you get injuries, and all of a sudden that rotation gets out, and it starts to expand. Now you're sitting there and all your scars and wounds are showing. And that's the two-way players, and the players are too young, or Steve Kerr. Yep. So I'm just trying to point out, this was a team who didn't plan to need the depth you're talking about that Bob Myers and Steve Kerr don't have. They thought they were playing pretty similar to what the rotation was last year late in the season, DiVincenzo and Peyton out, and that's not the way that it worked out. They thought they had too many guys, and it's not the way that it worked out. But you're just to be fair, right, Clay not being the Clay that you thought, and every Warrior fan sitting there on this board thought he was going to be before this year, that to me is the biggest impact of any damn thing you could say in this show. I haven't listened to all of them. God bless them all. I'm sure they're all amazing. And the marijuana reads and all of that. But I'm telling you right now that Clay is the Clay you all thought he was going to be this year, the old Clay. When he came in and all that rotation stuff, a lot of it would have been out the board before Curry got hurt. Facts.
And just to add to that, too, Draymond Green's not the same player either. There's a regression there. tonight he was awful. I mean, they
They're
just stopped playing
concentrating on
after
too
a while.
much of the wrong things, and I know people don't want to say that for Draymond. No, I'm serious. I mean, talking about his contract and where he's going to go, what he's going to do, and he's got a podcast, and he's out there in the world, and he's with TNT, and all this other stuff, and you start to dilute that hungry, fiery guy who had to win at all costs, and that thing's just not the same at 110%, which we know isn't a thing. Now it's at 96. I'm sorry, that's a real thing too. Facts.
Casey, I love you, man. Before we go, let's talk about and sorry, folks in the chat, to switch real quick, but this Giants thing, man. What's your read on this, dude? Did the Giants ownership freak out about the money and just found any excuse possible?
No, I think
I've never seen anything like this.
They freaked out about the amount of money that they were going to spend because of what Correa was going to get paid, and because of an issue that they saw, which apparently was not related to, based on people I've talked to, the back issue that he's had. But the problem twofold. Number one, Carlos Correa is getting a physical 7 days after he signs. When you are signing a guy to that kind of contract, don't you think it's a little bit important to find out whether or not he's healthy? Because Dansby Swanson, who went to the Cubs and was another top flight free agent and a shortstop, would have been out there. But 3 days after Correa signed, he signed with the Cubs. So now 7 days later, you don't have that option either. The Giants fumbled this big time. The Judge thing was a miss. That was hard to get. But to me, the Correa thing, they fumbled big time. And look, being a Met fan, it's like living in a bizarro world. The rest of my family members are Yankee fans. I always thought as a kid, I was like, I can't imagine what life would be like. You know, it's always like they were, shopping at Barney's or Bloomies, and I'm at Old Navy, like in terms of my team. It was like the Milwaukee Mets. So I don't know the life I'm living. But if you're a San Francisco Giants fan, honestly, I just hope there's some liquor left in that cabinet after the last few hours, because I can't even imagine what that would have been like if I was a San Francisco Giants fan waking up and you on MLB The Show been playing 2 weeks of a season at your house in mom's basement with Carlos Correa at shortstop. Now he's not on the team. What the hell am I going to do about that? I'd love to ask Bob Myers what he would do with that situation.
Well, and that's why I brought Bob Myers talked about that for like 5 minutes today on that same interview on 95.7 The Game. Before we go, on if you're watching this show on YouTube, at the bottom there's a little ticker there. It's the Twitter account for Casey and I's new show. It's going to be called NBA Coast to Coast. It's going to launch next month. Much more details are to come. Casey, tell people what they should expect when they see you 5 days a week. You were the former host of my favorite show on television.
I thought you keep bringing up. I remember that I used to do that, and now I'm just losing hair. But yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. Honestly, it's like, me. That's what you get. I mean, look, I've been covering sports for 20 years and done a lot of TV. I did 3 years of the NCAA tournament for Turner and 7 years of baseball and 5 with the NBA and 3 NBA finals and radio for 20 years. And at the end of the day, I'm no different than I was before all that started. Just a big giant sports fan who loves to, talk a lot of crap. So if that's your thing, great. You could tweet me or follow me at Casey Stern. I accept DMs. Yep. I am ready, willing, and available. I'm a free agent at all facets of the game if you follow me. And that's it. And I mean, I like to enjoy life, and I got too many kids. And that's it.
No such thing, Casey.
No, not that's it. I got three.
What's your prediction for the Warriors before I shut this thing down? Do you think the Warriors will turn this around? And yes, Trey, real quick here, Trey Underwood writes, yes, we did. We totally stole the name, and who cares? There was a show on ESPN a long time ago called NBA Coast to Coast. We just swooped in and took it because it's a great name. Do the Warriors have any shot this year, man? I'm not ready to say it's over. I think when you have Steph,
what's their record? What's the exact record? What's their record? How many games out are they from the play-in game? How many games out are they?
Oh, that's the reason why it's
that's
hard
the only
to
thing you look
out
at right now. How many?
I'll tell you right now, and this is a huge reason I think why the Warriors are not hitting a panic button or taking any immediate action is because when you look at the standings, the Warriors just finished a 6-game road trip 1-5. There are 3 games below 500. They have by far the worst road record in the NBA. Yet right now, they're only 3 games out of the 6th seed, which would allow them to not even enter the play-in
What are they
tournament.
out of the play? What are they out of the play-in right now? What are they out of the play-in?
So right now, here, I'll share my screen so everyone can see this for the standings. Right now, the Warriors are a half game out of the play-in.
They're a play-in.
And here's the standings right here, courtesy of ESPN. If you can see the screen, I know it might look small for you folks out there, but the Warriors right now are the 11th best team. They're a game and a half behind the Timberwolves for the 10th seed, which would give
I feel
them
like I'm in one of those eye doctors with the eye chart. Like, can you read that? Like, no, I can't see. You need glasses because I can't. That says something went wrong. I saw that.
I know. I got to refresh it. I was trying to zoom in and it crapped
they're
out.
half a game out of the play-in and 3 out of the 6th seed. That's
a game and a half. A game and a half behind for the play-in. 3 games behind for the 6th seed. 3.5 back to the 5th seed.
Yeah, they're
4.5 back to the 3rd.
All right, let's not get crazy with the 3rd seed, but they'll get in. They'll get in as long as Steph doesn't have a setback, and we know he wants to come back clearly and is going to do everything that he can in his rehab. They'll get into the playoffs. But I think what's going to piss off Warrior fans, here's the problem that you really have if you're Bob Myers, is that the closer you get to the deadline, just how much am I gambling or putting into the rest of this year? If I don't have Curry back yet, he's close. Maybe he's around there. Maybe it's before that time. How many games do I got left? If I get in, what chance do I really have to make a run with the team that I have if I'm not deep enough, right? I don't think they can make big moves. And without that, I don't know if they can go to the championship, let's say, down the road. But do I think that if you get a healthy Steph Curry, you're a playoff team? Yes. Do I think that you're a dangerous team to play if you're one of the top couple of seeds and you play them? Nobody wants to see. I don't care if it's road, home, or on Mars. It doesn't matter. Nobody wants to see Steph or Draymond, who at that point certainly is going to play like it's Game 7.
Yes.
It is Game 7. The Warriors are a playoff team, and they still got a chance to win a series or two. Yeah, that's where I think this ends. It's going to be ugly and painful between now and then if you're a Warrior fan, though.
You're absolutely right. That's the craziest part about this team is, despite everything going on, as bad as things are going and could get worse, this team can still sneak into the playoffs, and who knows? Like you cannot be shocked if this team right now, worst road record in the NBA,
find a way to get
3 games below 500 at the 33-game mark, can still win a title because the rest of the NBA is just, who knows, right?
They'll find a way. And look, the Knicks are, and I'm happy that they're playing well competitively. And I know it's the Eastern Conference, but it's like, they're 18-14, and they're like the 6th seed right now, and they're not far behind. I think they're a game behind Brooklyn. So the league has a lot of parity. It's got a lot of mediocrity. Is there going to need to be a time where when Steph's healthy, you win 8 out of 10? There needs to be. In this NBA, I don't care if the 2 games are on the road. Is there any reason why the Warriors down the stretch of the season can't do that? There's not. They'll be a playoff team, but it's going to be a painful for a Warrior team and a fan that's used to excellence. It's going to be real painful between now and then, but I think it's going to net gain you a playoff spot for sure. Yeah. I'm saying it now. They're a playoff team.
Kerr and Myers are making things interesting, no doubt about that. And here's and the Warriors
and Clay and Draymond
and Dre. The Warriors are at home.
I know you love them, but I'm just saying.
No, but you're right. You're right. And we've been talking about that a lot on this show. The Warriors are home for 22 days. They have an 8-game homestand coming up. I will say this: if the Warriors struggle on this homestand, you will see changes, or you will. Because there's 2 things that are keeping this team from freaking out. One is the standings we just showed, and 2 is they have the best home record in the NBA. If either of those things change, then you will see the Warriors actually take action. Until then, I don't. Yeah, they're just. Well, they're kind of like just.
It's harder the further away you are from the deadline. I mean, you look, the closer that you get, the more you could pull the trigger on deals because teams aren't willing. Look, because of all the parity, the sellers aren't willing to jump to sell.
Right.
And even a Bulls team where all the dissension that they have, they just won a game and everything looks hunky-dory, right? I mean, seriously, the Knicks were a loss away from people saying Tom Tibbs' job was in danger, and they won 8 in a row. They were 10-13 before that 8-game winning streak.
Right.
That is how quick it goes. So I think the time period right now is just a little bit too early to jump, because your sellers that you got on speed dial got to be willing the same way. And outside of a couple of teams that we know are garbage, where there's nothing really to pluck from anyway, your teams that have some issues like the Bulls, like the Lakers, like some others where teams may go ahead and go pick from them, they're not bad enough, and it's not late enough yet to make a move.
Yeah, I love it. I love you. We'll be doing this on a daily basis too.
I appreciate that.
and again, folks, tomorrow, Kylan will join me. We'll go through the entire NBA landscape and figure out who's out there that the Warriors can pillage. Casey Stern, anything you want to promote before we go? Obviously, Unfiltered.
Yep. Unfiltered. I did
DMs
a
are
big
open?
episode today on Correa, which was about 40
Nice.
minutes long, which you can hit up on my Twitter or my YouTube channel, which you can find in my Twitter bio. You can get me at Casey Stern. Hop on board the Unfiltered Revolution. I'm not much with frills, but I'm a real person, and in today's day and age, there aren't many of them. So
No,
that's the best
true,
promotion
man.
of myself I can give you.
I love you, brother. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight for a 30-point loss. There were some bright sides. Patrick Baldwin Jr., I didn't mention just how good he was tonight. He finished with 17 points.
Way to polish the turd, Cyrus. Way to polish the turd.
5 for 8 from beyond the arc. So I want to give him some love as well. And we'll be back at this tomorrow. Casey Stern, again, follow him at Casey Stern. Check out his show Unfiltered and check us out, NBA Coast to Coast, when that launches. Stay tuned for that. Thanks, Casey. Thanks, everyone. Peace out. Right? We're done? Yeah, we're out. Okay.